Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the What If South is Up podcast, where we talk about the ups and downs of creating worlds from scratch and all the misadventures we experience along the way. In a nutshell, how to wing it like an author. My name is Derrick Hall and I'm the creator of the Crimson Prophecy series, consisting currently of 3 books with one more on the way on May 25th. I am here with my lovely, freshly vacationed co-host, Christina Lefebvre.
Hello, and I'm all fresh and stuff. And
Did you get a tan?
I got a burn.
Close enough. It'll tan over in a week, right?
It'll tan over. I'm in the middle of building my first world, a parallel Earth where colonization never happened in the Americas. And in that process, I'm writing my first book, which is a working title of Cogs and Arrows. That's it. That's all I got.
That's all you got?
That's all I got.
Well, this has been fun. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so I just got back from vacation. But Derrick, how are you doing today?
I'm all right. I'm still writing on book 3 and making that last little adjustment to book 2 before it goes on sale on the 25th.
Just a teeny tiny small little adjustment, right?
Yeah, sure. just rewriting half the book. But it's fine. It's all fine. I'm going to need some of Eva's writer's tears before this is over, but maybe I can make my own. What have you been up to pop culture-wise?
Pop culture-wise?
Anything while on vacation? Watch anything good? Read anything good on your
not
painfully
a
long car trip?
damn thing. No, not true. Not true. So, I have discovered something called Moonshot, which is an indigenous-inspired and created and written about, and all the characters, not stars, characters. It's a comic collection from an indigenous perspective. And
interesting.
So far, it's absolutely beautiful, and it's intoxicating, and I can't wait to get it finished. As far as watching anything lately, not really, because we've been on the road driving back from New Mexico up to New Hampshire, so that's taken a while.
Fair enough. I
You?
feel like there's going to be a lot of podcasts on that road trip.
There was a few. There was more than 2.
Yeah, that's appropriate.
Anything for you?
If you want to drive him crazy, just make him listen to us ramble.
Actually, we listened to a couple of audiobooks, so that's an accomplishment. I mean, he's not a reader. He's not a book aficionado kind of person. So I got a couple audiobooks in him, so that was good.
Hey, there you go. Well, I've not really done a whole lot in the watching department since we last spoke. I did finish Black Flame, which is book 3 of Will White's Cradle, and it is a fight. It is an absolute fight against my own brain not to just dive into the next one and to actually go read something different.
Take a breath.
So, I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing yet. I haven't made up my mind. We'll see.
Yeah?
Okay. We'll see. I read where the mood strikes. So, when I open the Kindle later, I'm going to figure out what I'm reading next.
So, on a not so different, but altogether different subject, what are you drinking today?
I have a craft beer picked up from the local tap house here in town. I've had it before. I've had it a bunch of times. I think it's out of either Oregon or Washington. I don't remember exactly, but it is Quilter's Irish Death.
Irish Death?
Which is Irish Death, which is an absolutely delicious stout.
I like a stout. I like a good stout.
It's blacker than black, and it will bite you in the nose if you're not ready for it. It is a little bit spicy, but it is very good.
Spicy stout.
Yeah, it has a spice to it. I don't know if they put some rye in their grain. I want to say mash bill, but that's for liquor. I don't know if they put some rye in it or what they did, but it does have a little tiny bit of a back of the throat into the sinuses horseradish kind of bite. Especially if you drink through the head. Yeah.
Wow.
Especially if you drink it while there's still head on it.
Huh.
Yeah.
Awesome.
It's good stuff. If you can find it, it's definitely worth the try. Quilter's Irish Death.
Sounds
what about you?
Great. Nothing special. Just gotten back from New Mexico. I'm drinking actually a sangria. It's a little bit warm outside and a little bit of red wine and some fruit. Kicking up the feet. Just
You make your own sangria?
This is the first time, and I didn't do terrible.
Yeah?
Yeah, I didn't do horrible.
What kind of red did you use?
The stuff in a box.
That'll work. I usually make sangria with Merlot, for what it's worth.
I actually think this is a red blend. I didn't care.
That'll work.
Yep.
It's got alcohol in it, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's working fantastic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We're all lubed up tonight. I didn't mean that like it sounded.
Thank God.
Cut. All right. So instead of our usual game of what if and our darlings dead or alive, we're going to do something a little bit different this week. And since we have both been dealing with critique groups and reading other people's work and critiquing and offering suggestions and things like that and having the same done to some of our work, we decided to talk about that a little bit and see maybe if we can help somebody else through the process. Because if you're not ready for it, it can be quite jarring.
Jarring, yes.
Jarring is a word.
It's a word.
It is a word. Yeah, so how has your experience been dealing with critique groups now and in the past?
So this is technically my third, but realistically my second critique group that I've been involved in pretty extensively. And the first one I was in was really focused on line edits, I would guess, or, like grammar, line edits, that kind of thing, which was kind of helpful when I was at that point. And then a lot not helpful because I needed to know where to develop my story.
Uh-huh.
Where this recent critique group that I'm involved in, boy, I don't know, all the feels. So on one hand, when I'm looking at their works, sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, I have nothing to offer. Nothing. Imposter syndrome just rears its ugly head and makes me feel like I got nothing. These guys are way beyond where I am today. On the other hand, sometimes I look at it as somebody else's piece of work and I think, oh, this isn't so difficult. I understand this. I get this. And this isn't even talking about getting critiqued. I'm talking about critiquing others.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And that's a totally different story, getting critiqued. But how are you feeling about critiquing others at this point? With you've got several books under your belt, and you're at the finalist, incy-bincyest, endest stages of another work. How do you feel about critiquing other people's work?
That is a complicated ask. For several reasons. Nobody works the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a different process. Like, for me, my first draft is a lot more polished than somebody else's because I'm anal like that, and I try to make it as good as I can on the first go with the theory and the mental process that, it's going to make editing easier if I make it right the first time. Which, yeah, it sort of does, but it's still a lot of work to edit a book. But not everybody writes that way. Some people write their books like a screenplay or a stage play, and it's walk in the room, say this, pick this up, touch that, talk to this other person, say this, they say that, and that is their first draft. There's no details, there's nothing filled in, it's literally a skeleton. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. Whatever works for you, do it. That doesn't work for me. Some people have the next 13 books outlined chapter to chapter and know exactly what's going to happen where and could go to any scene in any book and write it and just do it. I don't work that way. I am a very seat of the pants discovery writer. I don't know what's going on. I know where I need to go, but how I get there is completely up to the weather and traffic. So it's a different perspective.
How does that affect how you not only perceive somebody else's work, but offer constructive feedback.
For me, I have to set aside my own personal bias of screw the plan, just write the story. I have to set that aside and tell myself that this person has a different process. They do things in a different order. They like things a different way. And then hold that in my brain as I read through, because if I don't, I start trying to write it the way I would write it, as opposed to helping them tell it their way.
Wait.
And make it as good as possible.
Wait. So what you're saying is, when you're critiquing a piece from a critique partner, you're looking at this piece and going, "Oh, I wouldn't do it that way," or "I would do it this way."
I have to fight that. My brain automatically does that. I have to fight it.
Interesting.
Because if I went with that, nobody would talk to me ever again. Like, no friends, no critique partners, no nothing. You're an asshole. Bye-bye. And
so let me ask you a question about that. What does it matter if they think you're an asshole? And why does it matter if they think you're an asshole?
It doesn't. I've worked hard for my asshole status, but at the same time, having a good relationship with the people you're working with is important.
So I get that. And this first critique group I just spoke of a moment ago, there was one person on that critique group who held nothing back. If he read a sentence and he thought it stunk, he thought it was his obligation to tell you that it stunk.
And that's the other side of it. Everybody gives critique differently.
Everybody agrees. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You'll have some people who are an absolute ray of sunshine going, "I absolutely love it, but could maybe you make this clearer?"
Yep.
And then you'll have the people coming and going, "You can't do that.
It's against the rules."
Yeah. Thing is, there are no rules. So, especially for someone like me who is a self-published indie, there are no rules. I can write whatever I want. So it's very much a matter of perspective. So if I get to know somebody, have a relationship with them, however deep or shallow it may be, and know a little bit of their process, that actually really helps me as far as offering critique. Because if somebody goes, "Oh, this is my third draft and it's a little rough, and don't worry about the punctuation, but I need to figure out why this scene doesn't flow right," or something like that, you're going to be more focused on the problem. You're going to know how they work to some extent and be able to offer customized feedback. So if they're planning 2 more rewrites, or they're going to scrap a chapter and start over, but they want to know what's working and what's not first, which that's a whole nother subject. But if you know what they're looking for, it makes it a lot easier to actually be helpful and not just read it and laugh at some things and go, "I don't get it," in other places.
So I think that's very important. And I think that that's one thing I've learned through this whole learning to critique different people and be critiqued, is to be very clear on what you expect to be critiqued on, what elements you need feedback on, and B, to understand what someone wants to be critiqued on their work.
Well, and sometimes I know for me, requesting specific feedback can be really difficult because I don't know what I need.
Yeah.
So it'll just be like, if anything sticks out to you, let me know. And then people end up confused because they're like, "But what do you need?"
But wait, don't you think that after all these books you've written, that you kind of know more or less than you had in the beginning what you need?
Oh, I know worlds more than I did when I started. But
so,
I think kind of a byproduct of the way that I write being very linear and like first draft feeling a lot more polished than in most cases, kind of in a way it's a detriment because I look at it and go, well, yeah, it looks like a book. Because the way I write, everything comes out, even on a first draft, completely formatted and hyphenated and capitalized and broken into chapters and ready to go. But looking at that, I have to remind myself, A, that it's a first draft, and B, that there are problems, even if they're not obvious, and I have to hunt for my problems. And sometimes I don't see the problems, and that's what critique partners are for, and beta readers are for, and alpha readers for that matter, and ARC readers and that sort of thing. They are there to find the flaws, find the holes, and tell you what's going on. Critique by its nature is critical. It is there to find the problems.
What happens when you're critiquing somebody's work and you have no problem, per se, with their writing style, their voice, their structure, but the story itself is of no interest at all. And it's not because the writing is bad, it's just not something you're interested in.
That's fair. For me, the only time I would really have a problem with style is if it was difficult to read. And I would probably comment on that. Like, hey, I'm finding this really hard to read. You have a whole bunch of dagger sentences, like really short, sharp sentences when they're not needed. You know, try combining some of that description from little 4 and 5 word sentences into something a bit longer. That sort of thing, I would mention it, but I can overlook it. As for not being interested at all in the story that somebody is telling, if I am reading for the sake of critique and not reading for pleasure, because they are two very different things, if I am reading for the sake of critique, I can overlook that, and it actually makes it easier to see the technical side that needs tweaked or fixed or adjusted, because I'm not quite as invested in the story itself, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally
makes sense. But I will
also
note, I would also note, hey, this isn't my usual thing, but I'm having a really hard time getting into it. Like, don't just be like, I can't get into it, or I don't buy the characters, or I don't like the characters. Don't do that. Just be like, hey, I don't usually read grimdark romance, or whatever the case may be, or monster boyfriend stories, or, you know, whatever. I don't usually read this, but even with that aside, I'm having trouble getting invested in the story and wanting to know about the characters and that sort of thing. And that is one data point on a graph, hopefully you're not the only data point, but that is one data point on a graph that the author can look at and go, okay, these people love this, they got super into it, it was super cool, these people are kind of in the middle and lukewarm on it, and then there's this dude over here who doesn't usually read werewolf nanny stories and couldn't get into it. That data point is now an outlier, so you can discount that from your data set and go, that is, you know, margin of error essentially. And the people who liked it really liked it, or whatever.
Biggest problem I'm having as a critique partner, there's two, as a critique partner. One is if I'm reading your story and I have no interest what's happening, but my other people in the group are like, this is a great story, but it's not capturing my imagination or my interest. I have a very difficult time moving forward with that. I have to, it's like homework from, 7th grade.
Oh, I didn't say it was easy.
Yeah, but once it's not easy, not that everything needs to be easy, but once it gets to that level, I have a very difficult time finishing the task, and it's now work. And once it becomes work, now I feel like I am investing in somebody else's product where I should be investing in my own, if that makes sense.
That is fair. But within most critique groups, they will also critique your work. So you get a return on your investment.
You get a return on that investment. And this is where I said earlier that there's two things. So the second thing is that I have a difficult time finding people who, you're an anomaly in this, but I have a hard time finding people who understand what I'm trying to do. And here's the thing. If I have a hard time finding critique partners that understand what I'm trying to do, am I going to have a hard time finding readers who understand where the story's going? And this is what critique partners are great for, but I'm wondering, on one level, is it just that I have the wrong critique partners, or do I have the wrong story?
I don't necessarily think it's either one of those.
Yeah?
I think it's a matter of, I don't think it's necessarily either one of those. It's not that you have the wrong story or that you have the wrong critique group. What I think the issue is there hasn't been enough of that relationship built just yet. Because I was saying, you have to build a relationship with the people you critique for. You have to know them, know their process, know their style, to understand what they're trying to achieve in order to give feedback on it.
Okay, let me ask you another question. In your whole process, we're talking about, you don't have an editor, but let's just pretend like you could afford all the editors. So you have editors, alpha readers, beta readers, arc readers, critique partners. Okay? I just named 5 different positions. Do you think that critique partners offer 20% of the positive outcome to help you complete your work?
More.
Cool.
More. I'd say probably closer to 40%.
Yeah. Interesting.
Because an editor is going to pay attention to the technical things.
Yep.
There's a plot hole. This is a tense change, or
that's a developmental
narrator change, or this sentence doesn't make sense, or whatever. An editor is going to focus on the technical side. A critique partner is going to focus on whatever you ask them to focus on. If you want them to focus on that character that you're not sure is completely developed and say, tell me if there's a problem here, or focus on that one scene that you feel really awkward about, that you feel like might get you arrested if you publish, they're going to focus on that and be like, yeah, that's really awkward, and I can tell you don't write this sort of thing, so here's some ideas. And, that sort of thing. It's a lot more customizable, it's a lot more direct, and more often than not, you can just jump in a chat or a video call or whatever with somebody when they have a few minutes and go, please explain this to me, I'm lost. And they will. And in the process of that, you end up being invested in each other's work because you've been there the whole time. You make friends. You have other author friends. I've seen critique groups that will go to retreats together for the weekend and things like that because they're just really good friends that all happen to do the same thing.
I will say that I just want to point out that I have never had a critique partner that didn't offer me something, I don't want to say positive, but something that allowed me to create a manuscript.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'll say this 1,000 times. I don't have to like my critique partner, but I absolutely...
It helps.
No, I don't have to like them. I just have to understand their feedback. I have to appreciate their feedback. I have to accept their feedback. If I can't accept the feedback of somebody, then they're not my right critique partner. It doesn't matter if I like them or not. It doesn't matter. They just have to be able to help me make my book better.
Yeah, and I can completely agree with that. I think it helps if you like and get along with somebody.
Oh my God, it helps. Oh my God, it helps.
But it's not necessary.
Yeah.
But the flip side of what you were saying is that you have to know that you can trust somebody.
Oh, yeah, trust.
Enough.
Yeah.
You have to trust them enough to basically hand them your half-formed baby and say, tear it apart.
There's also a level of teaching or educating your partners to understand what you're trying to do.
Yes.
So when there was my first critique partner group that I had, it took a couple of thousands of words for them to understand that that's not the story I'm trying to tell. I'm not trying to tell your story or his story or Stephen King's story or, whomever's story. This is the story I'm trying to tell. So there's a little bit of patience that needs to go with developing those critique partner relationships.
Yes. Yeah, it takes time. You're not just going to drop into a group and immediately be best friends and trust every word out of everyone's mouth. It takes time, and it takes work, honestly. It's like any other relationship. You can't just show up and expect it to be there. You have to build it. I had it a little easier than maybe you do because my books are very much traditional fantasy, so it's not hard to get into that mindset.
Yep.
Especially once I tell somebody it was inspired by D&D, and they're just like, oh, yep, cool, got it.
Yep.
Whereas you're coming at it from an extremely different angle and going, yeah, it's fantasy, but it's got some steampunk and it's built on indigenous culture and, an alternate Earth and no colonialism and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, whoa, okay, that's a lot.
That's a lot. Yeah. Which I will tell the world right now, that's a lot, but it's not wrong. My book is going to be good.
Oh, your book is going to be good. I just read a giant chunk of your book. It's going to be good. Eventually. Eventually it'll be there. It'll be there when it gets there. But are we there yet?
It'll be there when it get there. So you'll have book 25 out and my first one will be out. But my world's being built.
No, I'm doing this one book 3, maybe one more novella, and then I'm leaving Ketra for a little while.
I said book 25. I didn't mean it was book in Ketra, but
Oh Lord.
But so what are some other things that we can tell people about developing a critique group? I can tell you right now that I've had the 2 critique groups I've had right now. One was 100% through Facebook chat, and then we had documents through Google Docs. The second group is through Discord, and with all the channels and all that kind of stuff. I tell you, they're 2 totally different fields and totally different ways of managing them.
I personally prefer the Discord approach. It's a lot more organized, and it's a lot harder for people's questions or things to get lost.
Yep.
It's a lot better on, like, at least for me, it's a lot easier on my anxiety because I don't have little bubbles popping up that show me everybody's seen it, but nobody wants to answer my question.
No, I can see that. The last critique group I was in was 6 individuals, including myself, and everyone was extremely engaged, and which was really, really nice. I mean, it was just a great group of people. So the Facebook chat actually worked really well. The problem with Facebook chat, of course, is being able to find a conversation that you had previously or be able to go off on tangencies. The problem with Discord is that sometimes I forget where that question was, right? Sometimes I forget or I don't know.
There's a search function.
There's a search function if you remember exactly the terminology you're looking for. But so... It can be...
I've found myself channel hopping trying to find something before.
Right, so sometimes it can be overwhelming.
It's very similar, for anyone who hasn't used Discord, it's very similar to like forums you would have had in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
It's just contained to an app instead of a website.
Yep, and I appreciate the technology as much as anything else. I think that if you're going to start a critique group, it's important to if you're going to join a critique group, you'll want to find out the format they're using and if you understand the technology and if you're comfortable with that technology. If you're going to start one, you can start one in a Facebook chat, but unless you have some kind of rules or structure around it, it'll just fall apart. So
exactly.
In the beginning, I said I've been involved in 2 or 3 critique groups. There was a third one that recently I started to join, but there's no structure around it, and it's not exactly 100% helpful because nobody knows what everybody else is doing, and anyone could throw anything in at any time, and it's just becomes both overwhelming and nebulous at the same time. So I don't disagree that a critique group can be very helpful. I will say that it's very important to curate the group of people that you want to critique with, for, and who you want to critique for you.
Yes, I will agree with that. It turns into like a close group of friends after a while. So you're going to be spending a lot of time with these people, looking at things that they're protective of. They're going to be looking at things that you're protective of. There has to be a matter of trust, and you have to, like I said, you have to take the time to build that relationship and understand them for it to work well.
I will also say that if you haven't written your first draft, starting a critique group or entering a critique group is not the place for you. You need to be very sure of where your book story is and where it's going. Because the first time I started a critique group, I wasn't exactly positive where things were going. And every time I got a comment or a critique on whatever I submitted, it totally changed the tail end of my story. So you need to be very confident in where your story's going. If you join a critique group without understanding where your story's going, where it's ending, and how it's going to get there, whether you're a planner or a plotter, doesn't matter. You're going to be flailing in the wind for however long, and you'll never get your book done.
Yeah, that's going to lead me into my next big piece of advice for anybody who's thinking about joining a critique group or going, oh, that might be a good idea. I'm working on my first book or whatever. Or it could be your 30th book and you've just never done this before. Make sure that your skin is thick.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure that you have a very thick skin before you go into a critique group. Critique is by definition critical. You are there to ask people to tear your work apart. Show me all the problems, show me all the flaws, tell me why it doesn't work. And that is not always easy to listen to or to read or however you're getting feedback.
Totally. So
it can hurt a lot.
It can hurt, but let's talk about the thick skin. There's two sides to that. I don't want to, that sounds really creepy.
For sure.
But the one side of that is that nothing any of your critique partners say is going to make your book, your story, your scene worse. It's not. It's just not. And if you go into this thinking, if you get so defensive and you don't listen, it's not going to be helpful.
Right.
You say thick skin, but you have to be willing to go into these groups saying, okay, when they give a critique back, it's not against me. It's not against what I did. It's what they saw. And I can accept it or throw it away.
Yep. It is entirely up to you whether you take what somebody says and act on it or not.
Absolutely.
And
don't take it personally.
It is also, exactly, and it is also entirely up to you how you take what they're saying.
Yep.
It's gonna feel personal. It's gonna hurt. I can pretty much guarantee that. But I can also pretty much guarantee you that it is meant with lots of love and all the best intentions and every hope that you finish it and it's the next bestseller.
Okay. All the best intentions, hopefully, if you find the right group.
Yes.
Now, here's the other thing. If you go into a critique group and you start getting critiques, believe it. If you deny everything everybody says, you're wasting their time, their talent, and that's just nothing but disrespect.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to go into it and accept what people are saying. If you go into a critique group and you listen to what everybody says and then say, all of y'all have no idea what you're talking about. All of y'all, are bumpkins. All of y'all are lying to me. That's a sign of disrespect.
And distrust.
Yes,
I guarantee you, if you join a group and it's just not working for you, 9 out of 10 people are going to wish you the best on the way out. It's not...
Your book's not ready.
It's not ready.
Your book's not ready.
Even if just a group dynamic doesn't feel right for you, or the critique isn't right for you, or after several thousand words of trying, people just can't get your book, and not just they're not telling you what you want to hear, but literally do not understand what you're trying to do, you can leave. That is 100% your prerogative. Thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. All I could think was
prerogative, obligation,
peroxide.
So it's your prerogative, it's your obligation, and your responsibility.
Yeah.
All three.
Exactly. If it's not working, I can guarantee you there is a group somewhere that will.
Yep.
Or if you can't find it, which a lot of these groups are kind of underground and difficult to find unless you know somebody, because most people want to keep them kind of small. But if you can't find it, find some people that you can work with and start your own.
By the way, they should be kept small.
I 100% support that. They should be small.
Yeah, and small, 4 to 6 people. That's it.
Yeah, for sure. Even numbers are nice, but if that can't be a thing, it's fine. You have a floater.
That's fine. But once you get it to 7 or 8 or 9, it just becomes, first of all, you have to critique 8 other pieces. If you have a 9-person group, you've got to critique 8 other pieces before yours is critiqued.
Uh-huh.
Mathematically, that's how it works. Maybe not timely, but that's mathematically how it works.
Yeah.
That's a shit ton of work.
It is a lot of work. And if you're running up on a deadline, you're probably not going to get through whatever piece you need that critique on before the deadline shows up.
All right, so critiques groups 4 to 6 people.
Yeah,
Prime.
maximum. That is the sweet spot. Unless you take that group and subdivide it into smaller groups, which I have seen done.
Yes.
You have groups of 3 or 4, and then you have maybe 4 or 5 of those in a group, and everybody meets on like an offset or whatever. Group 1 is the first Tuesday,
3 to 4...
and group 2 is the second Tuesday or whatever. And then you still have a larger community to pull ideas from and inspiration from, but the actual critique group is smaller.
There's nothing wrong with a small critique group.
No, nothing at all.
Nothing.
Especially if you trust who you're working with.
Yep.
We've been talking to each other for a long time, long before I got into an actual critique group, and just you and me have worked through so many problems.
Yeah.
So many.
You've helped me, yep.
Yep. And it goes both ways, and that's another thing.
It goes both, yep.
Critique is a two-way street. You don't just get, you give. And you don't just give, you get. So you might make an investment in somebody else's project, but they're going to do the same for yours. And that's not just a knowledge investment. It is a literal time investment.
It's a time investment. It absolutely is a commitment and a time investment. And it's not always 50-50.
Correct.
So sometimes I will spend 6 hours on someone's critique, and they'll only give me 2 hours. But the next time, I only give them a half hour, and they give me 8 hours.
Yeah.
It's not always 50-50. You can't draw a line in the sand and say, you can't keep a scoreboard is what I'm saying. You can't keep a scoreboard.
And I mean, yeah, it's not always exactly even, but it'll come out in the wash. Like you were saying, it varies.
It'll come out in the wash.
It varies.
Yep.
It will come out in the wash, and everything will balance out, and it'll be fine.
With that being said, if it's not fine and you're not getting the feedback you need, then you need to leave that group so they can find someone that fits better in that group.
Uh-huh. I think a lot of this all just boils down to mutual respect. Like whether you...
And trust, like you said.
Respect and trust.
Yeah.
Whether you agree with somebody's method or what they're writing or their style or whatever. That's the beauty of books. They're all different. If all the books were the same, it would be boring. Which means that all the writers are different.
It'd be boring.
Everybody is different. You have to respect the differences, and you have to respect the time that people are giving to your work, and hopefully they will respect the time that you are giving to theirs, and respect the knowledge and the feedback and the information shared, because at the end of the day, everybody's just trying to help everybody be the best they can be.
Yep.
That is what it is.
Yep.
And it can very much hurt. I had one critique meeting where folks went over a good chunk of one of my books, and I almost quit writing because of it, because it hurt.
Yep.
It felt like there was nothing that I could do right, and I was a fraud, and, the imposter syndrome kicked up real hard. But I talked to some people. I think I talked to you, Christina, and I talked to some other people, and they're like, that was not the intention. Like, it's really good, but you have these problems, and whether you address them or not is completely up to you. And if you don't address them or don't have time to address them, now you know, and you can get better. And that is the goal, is to help each other get better.
And that is the goal.
That is the goal.
And that is the goal. So in closing, critique groups are a thumbs up, right?
Absolutely.
Thumbs up. We got 2 thumbs up for critique groups.
Yay, we matter.
We
Yes, absolutely. If you have... I would say probably avoid it until your first draft is complete.
Yes, or you have a very, very, very strong outline.
Even that, I think there are exceptions to what I'm about to say, but even if you have an outline done, if you don't have anything written, you're going to be racing to keep up.
No, that's a good point. You're going to be racing to keep up.
So I would say...
Yes, I totally agree.
If you can, have a chunk
if you have the time... Yeah. If you have the time to race and keep up, that's a different thing. Right. But most of us newbie writers are not self-employed with writing.
Yeah,
we have another job.
Kidding. Yeah. So if you have the time to race and keep up, by all means, race and keep up. But it's a lot less stressful, especially when you're getting used to a new group or a dynamic or that sort of thing, to have, I would say, at least half of the book written before you go in. Because then you have a backlog of work that you can present for critique while still moving forward.
And don't wait.
Yeah.
to move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm going to add to that moving forward is very important.
Oh, God, yeah.
Move forward before
Yes.
you do anything else. If you get a critique...
Keep moving forward.
Yeah,
Yep.
just keep swimming. In the famous words
Yep.
of Dory, just keep swimming. If you're working on something, or even if your draft is done, if you get critique on something, don't go back and edit what you just got critiqued. Finish the book.
Finish it.
Finish it. Because if you get something critiqued, edit it, get it critiqued again, which depends on the group. Some of them want new material. Some of them will take the same thing several times in different versions. It just depends. But if you say, get a critique, edit, get a critique again, edit again, you're going to get stuck in this loop and the project will stagnate.
So he's not wrong. And I guess I was wrong in saying, in closing,
Sorry, information. We're trying to help people, aren't we?
critique groups are good.
Critique groups are good. But yes,
Yes.
build the trust, build the relationship, and keep moving forward. And we'll end it there.
That was fun.
That was fun. If you're an author, newbie or not, and would like to be on our show, we would love to have you. You can let us know by going to our website, whatifsouthisup.com, and leaving us a message, or you can reach us through our Facebook page.
We're also always looking for new what if questions to go into our perpetual spreadsheet. If you have a made-up world and would like to see parts of that placed inside of our worlds and for us to play that out, we'd love to hear from you. So, Derrick, where can everyone find you?
My website is derrickHallAuthor.com, but you can find me as D Hall Author on the Clock app, Facebook, or just about anywhere else. And apparently I am the front page of Google at this point, so...
I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud.
Right. If you can't find me for whatever reason, just punch Derrick Hall Author into Google and you will find me. It's pretty much a guarantee.
You can always find me at UniquelyXtina anything.
Yep.
UniquelyXtina.com and at the Clock app and just anywhere
Very
you can
original.
find me.
Use the same thing everywhere.
Yeah, I know.
All right, guys. Hopefully
Thank
you
you.
learned something from that. And if you were worried about getting into a critique group, we took some of the guesswork out of it for you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. We are happy as clams to know that people know that we exist, and we will answer your questions. Until next time.
Yes. Until next time. Toodles. Bye-bye. C'est la vie. Have a good life. Ta-ta for now.